Hey guys, welcome back to Play on Footy. Today I'm going to be looking at contracts and also lists of AFL teams for 2024. Let's get into it. First of all, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and like this video for more AFL content. I'll be regularly uploading throughout the week, so let's get stuck in. First of all, I want to just go through the lists from oldest AFL lists to the youngest AFL lists. So we'll start with the first one, which is Collingwood at 26.1 years per game. The next one's Geelong, coming in at second at 25.5 years per game. And then got Melbourne in third place, 25.2 years per game. Brisbane, fourth. Richmond, fifth. Carlton, sixth. Bulldogs, seventh. Sydney, eighth. Suns, ninth. St Kilda, 10th. Port Adelaide, 11th. Essendon, 12th. GWS, 13th. Adelaide, 14th. Freo, 15th. West Coast 16th, Hawks 17th, and North Melbourne 18th. It's interesting seeing this. Obviously, Geelong won the 2022 grand final, and they're second oldest on the list. And then you've got Collingwood, who have the oldest list, and they won last year's 2023 grand final. Seeing Melbourne up there in third spot, obviously they won in 2021, the Perth grand final. But it's really interesting to see that these four teams, especially Brisbane as well, they're really peaking in terms of their premiership window. Richmond, you could say they're in fifth place. They've already peaked and they're sort of missing out. Carlton are really in that sort of spot, sixth place, where they are challenging. And I'd be really surprised if they didn't make the grand final this year. And then just underneath them is the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have no excuses, and it'll be interesting to see how they go this season. But for Pies to start 0-3, and the Bulldogs, if they start 0-2, Beveridge is going to come under a lot of fire. So that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Another front runner from this list, which I find really interesting, is Sydney at 24.7 age per game. But they're going to be another challenger for this year. So it's interesting, along with St Kilda, who are just 2 spots below them as well. Where does your team sit? What do you reckon is the plan going forward? I think personally for me, being a West Coast supporter, we still have about 5 to 6 players that are around that 30 mark or nearing that 30 mark. So once they do go and we get more picks, let's just say we finish wooden spoon, we'll probably get more picks to bring into the team, first round picks or second round picks. And that will obviously drastically bring down our, averages per game. Probably could sit around 21 years of age per game. That's where we're heading as a club, but it's a real sort of prospect. But again, it's probably another thing that's at good timing, because before this Tasmanian team gets here in 2028, you probably want to load up with all those early draft picks and make sure that you got depth and youth going forward, especially with that other team coming in as well, which I'm sure the AFL will look after. No different to how they looked after GWS, and in particular the Suns when they first came out as well, with big names such as Gary Ablett going to the Gold Coast Suns, especially after he won the Geelong's Premiership as well. Okay, first off the bat, we've got Western Bulldogs. We've got Jamara Ugle-Hagan, Bailey Smith, who's unfortunately his ACL, and Tim English. Tim English has been linked to West Coast, whether or not that's true or not, because his girlfriend is from Melbourne. She's, I think, a netball player. The likelihood of him coming back to Perth is rather slim. But hey, who knows? Depends on what the toxic environment's like with Beveridge. Who knows? We have to see how that plays out. With Bailey Smith, he obviously does have a good mate in Dink Dacos. If Collingwood were to poach him, they'd have to make, some big list changes, but they do have a lot of aging stars, so that might be a lot easier, said than done. And then you've got Jamara Ugle-Hagan, who is predicted to have a breakout season this year. He could kick 50 goals this season, I reckon. But yeah, to see where he goes is a bit unknown. There has been talk about him going to Hawks, to be the next Buddy Star. So yeah, let's see how that plays out. West Coast really don't have that much depth that other people, or other teams, I should say, would be interested. The one that does come up is Liam Duggan. He is our vice captain, but he's just been made vice captain. He's an ex-Victorian. I just don't think he'd leave the club, especially the state that it's in. I just don't think, unless he has an amazing offer somewhere else, but I just doubt that will be the case. Jermaine Jones is another one there. He was from the Geelong Cats, but whether or not he does stay at the Eagles, he does get the game in round 2 coming up against GWS, so that's good for him, and we'll see how he goes. And then the next ones will just be aging stars such as Andrew Gaff and Elliot Yeo as well, to see what happens with those guys. The next one is the Sydney Swans. You've got Logan McDonald. You've also got Will Hayward, Ollie Florent, Robbie Fox, James Golden, and Rowbottom as well, James Rowbottom. I mean, at this current stage, you'd probably say that they'd stay at the club, just given the trajectory of where they're heading and the possibility of playing finals, and if not getting in a grand final. So I would highly recommend and suggest that, yeah, Sydney would lock these guys down as they're key to moving forward and bigger and better things in the future. The next one is St Kilda. I'm recording this on a Friday, so this is after the big win against the Magpies, and the St Kilda Footy Club will definitely want to lock down these guys as they're a big part of Ross's plans going forward. You've got Josh Battle, you've got Dougal Howard, Dan Butler, Tim Membry, Mason Wood, who unfortunately had that terrible concussion and broken collarbone, Jimmy Webster, Zach Jones, who was influential coming in for Jimson Wood there, and Seb Ross as well. So yeah, I think Richmond definitely need to lock those guys away because they're instrumental in what they're trying to build at the moment under Ross Lyon. The next one's Richmond. You've got Dusty, who has been rumoured to go to Suns to see Hardwick there, his former coach. Prestia, he's unfortunately had a bit of a hard sort of injury battle at the moment. Liam Baker's ex-WA, he has been linked to either West Coast or Fremantle. He has recently purchased a $2.2 million house in WA. If that's an indication he's coming back to WA, I don't know what else is. Could be an investment property, but it's most likely he will head back to WA. The next one is Jack Graham, Nankervis, McIntosh, Grimes, and Pickett. Those guys are nearing 30. I think they are. I definitely know Pickett's 30 and Grimes is 30, McIntosh is 30. Nankervis is heading to 30. Jack Graham's quite young, but again, he's out of contract. So it'll be interesting to see where he's situated in the lot of things, especially if he's favoured under Adam Uze or not. Time will tell. We'll see what happens with those guys. But yeah, they definitely need a rebuild at the moment, Richmond. The next one off the rank is Port Adelaide. You've got Leah, Finlayson, Dixon, Boak, Trent McKenzie, and Todd Marshall. Those guys, especially Todd Marshall's influential up forward. You've got Mitch Georgiades just come back from an ACL, so he's already been locked away. Trent McKenzie is, yeah, I guess another big piece of the puzzle for Port if they can lock down him. Boak and Dixon are probably the ones that you're probably thinking, do they have another round left in them, another year? Be interesting to see how it folds out this season, as I think this is pretty much do and die for this current list. To obviously make finals, which they did do last year, but they just went out so straight sets. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with them if they can move forward and get more wins and actually progress forward as a list. But yeah, I think Dixon and Boak would be the ones that would probably be putting their hand up by the end of this year to retire, I'd say. North Melbourne, Zurhaar is the big one here. Bailey Scott, Fergus Taylor, and Tom Phillips. Yeah, Zurhaar's obviously ex-WA. He'd be wanting to lock down something with North Melbourne. Whether or not he stays is yet to be seen. But yeah, under Alistair Clarkson, I think it's a pretty safe bet that it's the right spot for him. He's playing some good footy this season. But yeah, he really needs to stamp his mark this season to get a big contract under his belt, or obviously an extension as well. Next one is Harrison Petty, Bailey Laurie, Adam Tomlinson, who is a ex-GWS player, played in the 2019 grand final, the one where they got pumped by Tigers. Lockie Hunter, he is ex-Tigers. And you've got Ben Brown, who was ex-Kangaroo, and Melksham. Ben Brown and Melksham, they're obviously getting up there in age in the 32 bracket. So it'd be interesting to see. Harrison Petty could be going to Adelaide, not confirmed, but not again ruling that out. So it'll be interesting to see what Melbourne do there with those players. But again, they're fourth oldest AFL list at the moment, just to see where they are going, if they're going to recruit someone that's a bit more established player, or going more for youth in the draft coming up by the end of this year. Next one, Hawks, Blake Hardwick is another one. Connor Nash, Scrimshaw, Bruce, who's 34, Wingard, who's 31, and Granger Barras, who hasn't really had much of an impact and is struggling to find his feet within the Hawks. Obviously, they're the third youngest list in the AFL, under Sam Mitchell, just trying to see where they position themselves going forward. Obviously, getting Gunston back's another one as well for this year, but whether he plays another season is yet to be seen. And obviously Bruce. But yeah, I think as a club going forward, Hawks are going to be pretty ruthless under Sam Mitchell to make sure that they can maximise their return on their players, especially before 2028, before Tasmanian Devils get all their complimentary picks from the AFL. So yeah, I think the way they're heading is that they've got to be really ruthless with the existing players that they've just mentioned, Bruce, Wingard, and Granger Barras. I think Scrimshaw's a lock, and Connor Nash, but yeah, Blake Hardwick would be interesting to see what happens with him. Yeah, not much really for GWS. You got Bruce, who's a ruckman. They're pretty in demand generally around, the end of the season. You got Harry Perryman, Jesse Hogan, who's going to have a killer year, I reckon, this year. Up forward, he's going to kick a bag, I reckon, and probably challenge with the Coleman. And then you got Nick Haynes, who is 32, and probably most likely his last season this season, barring he has no real bad injuries or anything like that. I do see that GWS, though, really are probably the only team currently that don't really have too many headaches or list management headaches. I think they're pretty, primed under Kingsley to really go all the way this season and get in the grand final and if not win the premiership. Suns locked away their man Ben King. They've got Ben Ainsworth, Ellis, Sexton, Witts and Sam Day. They're all around that 30 mark. So again, Suns have a bit of a interesting run there with their list management. Under Hardwick, it could be interesting to see if he brings any more Tigers players over, or he goes out and gets some pre-established players that are 25 or 26 and already got a couple of AFL games in their system. So I think that's maybe the logic where Hardwick will probably infiltrate, just to get a bit more youth in the side, a bit more run off half back, and make sure the mids are Took Miller. He's another one. He's about 28, but again, he's got at least 4 years in him to really maximise out of him. Geelong probably are the ones with the biggest list headaches at the moment. They've got Guthrie, they've got Stanley, they've got Zach Tui, Mitch Duncan and Gary Rowan, who are really sort of in that age bracket where if they were to bring in someone like Bailey Smith from the Bulldogs, they really need to rejig a couple of things, and they're in pretty much the same position as Collingwood. So if they wanted to play like him, they've really got to sort of take the old out and bring the new in. But then they've also got Parfitt, Holmes, Stengel, Tyson Stengel, Jay Clark, and who is it? Dangerfield. Yeah, Dangerfield as well. So yeah, Geelong are really, they've got to play their cards right, but Geelong are infamously good with their list management and how they sort of rejuvenate quickly, especially in positions like this. So I wouldn't be too worried about Geelong, but yeah, they do have some headaches, so to speak, if deciding on which sort of way they want to go forward with this. Next one is Fremantle. They've got Ethan Hughes, Matthew Tabner, who's 31. He might fall out of favour under Justin Longmuir. So yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens with him. And then you've got Sam Sturt. He's another one who, who might fall out of favour or just go to another club, as I think it's his 4th year at Freo. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with him and which direction he wants to go, whether he wants to stay with the club or look elsewhere. It'd be up to him. Next one is the Bombers. You got McGrath, you got Archie Perkins, Durham, Caldwell, Shields, Stringer and Heppel. Heppel's 32. Stringer's getting up there in age as well. And Shields, I mean, do they have a spot for him at the moment? They've got that many midfielders, Essendon. It'd be interesting to see where the coach puts him. Brad Scott's got a bit of a headache in the midfield, because if he doesn't know which ones to pick, he's got a couple that have to go and play VFL. And Dylan Shields, you don't want Dylan Shields playing in the VFL, but Dylan Shields unfortunately hasn't had much of a good run with stringing games together in the AFL. And I think the way that the Bombers are sort of shaping up under Brad Scott is definitely youth is key, and trying to get those players in to play a brand of footy that sort of resembles some hunger and to actually break their finals drought. That's the sort of theme they're going for, I feel, in 2024 and beyond. So I think, yeah, definitely McGrath would be interesting to see where he's placed. I think he'll definitely get another contract, but he's obviously getting up there in age as well. But Perkins and Durham and Caldwell are definitely the future. And whether or not Stringer plays another game, I mean, he's a star when he's up and running, kicking a bag of goals. But yeah, Heppel will be interesting to see what happens with him. Next is the Pies. You've got Hoskin Elliott, who's 31, Pendlebury's 36, Howard's 34, Sidebottom's 33, and Nathan Murphy had some complications with the concussion, trying to get back in, but hopefully he gets another game. But yeah, again, same with Geelong. If they want to bring in Bailey Smith, who has been rumoured with the Pies, they need to make some big calls. And yeah, look, Pendlebury, I've been watching last night against St Kilda. They're starting 0-3 now. They lost that game, but yeah, they just look slow in their movement. The ball movement is clunky, and yeah, as Fly said, Craig McRae, it's just not pleasant, not getting the basics right. But yeah, their list management needs a big look at the end of the season for sure. Next one is Carlton. Carlton have got sort of Jack Martin and Caleb Marchbank. Jack Martin has been linked to West Coast, but whether or not that's true or not is just hearsay. But yeah, it's not certain yet whether Jack Martin will leave, and in particular to West Coast, but it's just interesting to see. Again, Carlton really don't have much of a headache with their list. They're fit, primed, ready to go. They've just got a couple of injuries at the moment, which they're sorting out. But yeah, I definitely think Carlton are in for a big season 2024 for sure. And yeah, I think these little things here will get ironed out within their list as well. Next is Brisbane, last year's grand finalists. You got Hugh McCluggage, Jared Berry, Zorko and Jared Lyons. Zorko and Jared Lyons are the ones where, you know, they're getting up in age. Whether or not they'll go another year is yet to be seen. It's really got to be seen this year to see how they go. And then you got Lincoln McCarthy as well. He's another player who is going to be on the list to see whether or not he gets another sort of tick of approval. But Brisbane are, yeah, the third oldest AFL list. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with them this year and if they can beat Collingwood this coming Thursday. Last but not least is the Adelaide Crows. You've got Eric Himmelberg, Sloan, who's 34, McHenry, Keys, and Brad Smith, who's 32. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the Crows are doing. I mean, hopefully they can get a win this week. Tonight, actually, they're playing against Geelong Cats in Adelaide Oval. But yeah, I think their list, you know, Sloan and Smith, the only ones that really need looking into, and whether or not they go for more youth, which they probably do. They've obviously got Daniel Curtin, the new recruit this season. Whether or not they play him sooner rather than later will be interesting to see. But yeah, that's the wrap up of all the AFL teams. If you like this, please subscribe and like and comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.